Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you here on my screen. Dear conference participants, friends, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Piret Noorhani and I am the president of the Baltic Heritage Network. And it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the 6th Baltic Heritage Network Conference. We are delighted to have you with us. Thank you for coming. 2021 marks 15 years since the first conference focused on the archives and heritage of Baltic people abroad. This took place in 2006 at the Estonian Literary Museum in Tartu and led to the official establishment of the NGO Baltic Heritage Network in 2008. 2021 is the year for Balternet's regular conference, but due to the pandemic, we have decided to host it online and not in Vilnius, as was originally planned. And here we are, on Zoom again. Our conference is about to start, and it has a strange title, No Topic Conference. Why so? The last year has changed the world quite drastically, and we wanted to discuss this at our conference. But as we are all tired of using and hearing this C word, we wanted to avoid that. And still, because of this C word, our topics for today and tomorrow are as follows. First, in what position has the pandemic situated memory institutions and communities of Baltic people, both homeland and abroad, including their archives groups, and what could we take from this experience? Have the pandemic restrictions changed the priorities of memory institutions, communities, and if so, how? What new ways of working and new methods have been used? Many thanks to all our panelists for their contribution, and special thanks go to those who are in Australia, but also in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania for adjusting to the extreme schedule. In Sydney, it is 4:30 a.m. right now, and in Baltic countries, 9:30 p.m. Humans have found a way how to get together without traveling, thanks internet, thanks Zoom, but the time machine has yet to be invented. Our sincerest thanks go also to the Compatriots program in Estonia for the financial support and Vemu Staff Museum of Estonians Abroad for technical assistance. Before coming to a close of these remarks, I would also like to remind our presenters and especially our moderators to try strictly stick to our time schedule and not to let any sessions overrun, because for some people it's really late hours. Let's hope that our next conference in 3 years, we are all able to travel finally to Vilnius and meet there in person. But now I wish us all an exciting and fruitful conference.
Thank you, Piret. Our newly elected president of Baltic Heritage Network. So, am I visible and can you hear me? Okay, yeah. Okay, then I see that we have by now 23 participants, both panelists and attendees. So it's great to have all of you here. And I even expect that there is many more to join us, and even if it's not, so our conference will be recorded and already has been recording, so that all of you and all the others wishing to take part in can follow it later on by Balternet webpage or via Facebook as well. So good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for everyone. And so I think that it's time to move on. And thank you, Piret, once again. And now I can see that here in my list we are having in our first session 3 presentation, and thereafter, of course, we will follow the second session as well. But now we will start with Anneli Reima, representing Estonian Ministry of Culture, and she is currently head of international relations on integration issues. And I believe that Anneli is one of those officials who is very much aware of how the global Estonians are active or should be active in worldwide, and what are the state policies currently, and what should we all follow in near future. So I expect that we have a presentation also to follow, and hopefully you can share your screen, and if not, I will be helpful as well. So let's try, and floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, and hello to everybody, and many greetings from Estonia, from Tallinn. I'm very glad to and happy to be with you today, tonight. And best greetings to all friends and colleagues from Baltic states, from different countries who are participating today. I will try to share my presentation. So, just a minute. Yep. Do you see it? Good.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So, today I would like to talk about the Estonian diaspora policy very, very shortly. What are the new trends? What are our visions and ambitions to reach more and more people who are living abroad? And which is our main topic and main discussion subject just now is how to be more customer-centric in our policy making. How you know that Estonianness, we are telling a global Estonianness and diaspora policy, that it is one of the priority topics in our policy making. And in Estonia, we're talking more and more about it, that Estonian community abroad is invaluable resource, both in diplomacy, science, business, economics, and other policy areas. And our task and our goal is to involve much more stakeholders, ministries, many other partners in Estonia to reach much more to our Estonian diaspora abroad, and not be just culture or education centric in our policy making, which concerns diaspora, but also involve much more business and our entrepreneurs in our diaspora policy. And as you know,
Anneli,
yes?
may I just disturb you for a second? Perhaps could you turn on the slideshow, because at the moment we're also watching your the column in the left, but you can just, yeah, now it's great. Thank you very much. so
very good, because I don't see it myself.
Okay, now it's perfect. Okay, thank you.
Just a short overview about our compatriots programs, which we launched already 2004, and it was coordinated by the Ministry of Education and also by the Minister of Ethnic Affairs. In our governmental level, possess a position like Minister of Ethnic Affairs. And of course, already many years, decades, we have supported Estonians living abroad, offering them to maintain the language skills, preserving Estonian national culture, and also possibly returning to Estonia. And very important part of this is also to work with Estonian archives abroad, which is our cultural heritage. And as I told you, that now is a bit shift in our policy making, and just now is in the preparation phase a new program which is directed to Estonian diaspora, and we are trying to be much more attractive, to reach much more people, and our target is to involve much more and more compatriots, especially also young people who are living abroad, who are studying abroad, who are working abroad, in our compatriots policy. And since 2021, since this year, when we got a new government, the diaspora policy is in the portfolio of Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is rather new approach. And at the same time, it's very important that our consulates, our embassies which are locating abroad, they can offer much more interesting information and also services to Estonians who are living in different countries. That it's a very important channel to reach our target group. And which are the main activities of the program? It is not like confirmed by the government, but the three important pillars are promote and preserve Estonian identity abroad. It means that we support our Sunday schools, the cultural organizations, archives, as it was before. Also our the religious life. We support also many people who are just like a priest, who are going to have services in Estonian churches abroad. And also, which is important, that we're trying to involve more global Estonian community in the development of Estonian society. And the third pillar is just to support Estonians who want to return to Estonia, to give them a good advice, and also economical support, who would like to move back or come back to Estonia to make career or give the education to their children. And of course, a changing world around us is giving new challenges. And as you know, that the technology gives us both opportunities and to get a bit different approach to diaspora policy as well. And of course, this COVID crisis, which is one topic also today, has influenced a lot in our approach, how to work with diaspora, how to reach to people. And it means that we are trying to find new digital solutions and be flexible in our diaspora policy as well. So our key question is how to keep the expatriate Estonian community connected with Estonia. It is very easy to reach to Estonian news, even look at Estonian TV, read news and so on, but not many people are use to get some digital services. So we're trying to offer them via our consulates, our embassies, and make the approach from the state much reachable. And of course, which is our interest in the Estonian side or governmental side, is to increase the contribution of the expatriate Estonian communities to Estonia's development. It means that they're trying to keep in touch these young people or businessmen who are working in abroad in other countries. And it's sometimes so that people who are working abroad or living there, they don't feel any need to keep in touch with Estonian governmental news or Estonia's development. We are trying to encourage them to find also Estonian communities in the countries where they're living or where they're working. And now I would like to talk a bit about this new portal in web at globalestonian.com, and there some prehistory about this portal. So the first time this portal globalestonian.com was introduced on the Compatriots program conference in Tallinn 2011, and it was created or launched by the Estonian community in Canada, and it was Mr. Markus Kolga, who introduced it. And now, some years ago, 2018, when Estonia celebrated its 100 years anniversary, Markus decided to give this like a present from the Canadian community to Estonia, to Estonian government, that someone else could coordinate this work and also develop this portal more. And since 2018, the Ministry of Culture and Estonian Integration Foundation, which is our cooperation partner, and also since this year, the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs have really looked very, very carefully how we can develop, what we can do with the portal, that it would be much more interesting, much more attractive, and also serves the interests of Estonian state and these communities, Estonian communities abroad as well. And our target is to develop this platform both to Estonian community and Estonian friends abroad, that there is possible to find useful contacts, to get new very important information, for example, how to find schools for the children who are, for these families who are returning to Estonia, or how to get passport and so on. And what is interesting is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our state chancellery launched an interesting project this year, just to find more flexible solutions also in the business diplomacy, how to reach these young scientists who are working abroad, find interesting new contacts, and also be much more visible in the web, in internet. And the Global Estonian portal is sharing both Estonian news, events, contacts, community info, and as well support programs, services. And we are trying to reach very different groups, including Estophiles abroad. So this portal is just now in Estonian and in English, but we really want to make it trilingual, that all this information could be served also or offered in Russian language, because many in Russia, in Ukraine, in Moldova are also Estonian communities which maybe do not understand Estonian anymore so well, but to keep in touch with these communities is for us very important as well. And also the diaspora policy is trying to contribute to the positive image of the Estonian state beyond the borders, to offer and introduce Estonian digital history, and also promote Estonia as an e-state, and also to talk much more about our culture, our history, our science, education, and so on. So through these digital tools, we are trying to preserve Estonian identity abroad, and also attract people to put news about the events which are going on or taking place in different communities, Estonian communities. So my also question and proposal is that if you have something interesting which is taking place in your everyday works in archives, do you find something interesting? So please send the news to this Global Estonian portal as well. And the operator is in Integration Foundation, the person who takes care that everything is okay with the portal is also a person who is originally from Canada, Mr. Tarmo Saks, who really takes care that the portal is functioning well. And our development ideas, what we are trying to do with this portal in the nearest future is that we have discussed a lot with our team that how we can offer the information in the best ways through the digital opportunities. And we are trying to put all services like in life cycle based principle, that we are trying to keep it and taking in consideration also the experiences of other countries. And for example, in the nearest future, not very long time ago, Finnish policymakers decided that to be more understandable to the people is to describe the services which state can offer. It could be like for the certain persons, for example, for families or for the students or scientists, what they really need from this state side of the country of origin. And of course, we are trying to involve many media platforms and also use a lot the social media and provide practical, useful and up-to-date information on the services to the Estonians abroad. And of course, maybe what we do not have done so much as it needed to really acknowledge and recognize the contribution of Estonians living abroad to the development of Estonia. And now you can see how this portal looks like. If you just put this address to the web, you can find this portal, and there you can see as well all Estonian communities abroad and also useful contacts. So there is also, you can see different events, including the conference today, that every people who are abroad or Estonian who are interested to know what is happening in the different communities can get very easily this information. And which we have done this year is we have launched a newsletter, which is just in Estonian just now, but we are planning to do it in English as well. A newsletter for this to promote also the diplomacy in the business area, in the field of the business, and trying to also introduce success stories and interesting facts about Estonia to our cooperation partners abroad. And of course, it is possible also order this newsletter via this portal, that it is reachable to everyone who is interested in it. And also we're trying to develop business network in social media. And it's a new initiative which was also worked out, we created the LinkedIn group, Global Estonian Business Network, where we are trying to attract the people who are really successful, who are interesting people who are working and living abroad, just to share good business ideas, find good cooperation partners in this network, which is for us ourselves who are working with diaspora policy a very interesting challenge, because we really have found or reached the people who are making great job, who are clever, who are smart, who are working in different economical branches, and we have got a very positive feedback that the people are a bit even surprised that we are interested in their everyday life, in their work, and we are trying to show that we are really taking care and we are interested of these people and Estonians, our compatriots who are working somewhere else, but our interest is to keep the very, very close ties. And we hope that these people can also promote Estonian economic, political and cultural life in their everyday business. And of course, which we have done also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is we have launched several webinars where our politicians, diplomats, also people in different business branches have got the floor, who have talked about Estonian political targets, also have give some important messages how to be much more effective in our cooperation. And the same time, if we are talking that COVID and has changed a lot in our everyday work, so through these digital tools, we can reach to many people and really be very, very flexible and visible what we are doing, to share our goals, to find new contacts, which is very, very important for us as well. And one of our targets also to promote young people who are living abroad, to share their experiences, their wishes, and support their activities as well. It is important to our future. And our state chancellor is working a small team of people who are developing different innovative projects, and we call it for InnoTeam. They have worked out different services which are web-based in education area, in to the police and border guard and as well in our diplomacy. So we have regular meetings almost every week to work out new webinars, to talk about how we get, what we have to write, or how we have to put news to our newsletter, and how we can develop the policy, diaspora policy in common with other ministries. And in Estonia, there is a new face or a person who is mainly responsible for the diaspora policy, and it is the ambassador of the Global Estonians, and it is a previous diplomat, Mrs. Marin Mõttus, who is responsible for the spokesperson to Estonians abroad. She got this position last month in August, and we really hope that we, in cooperation with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we can do and change our policy much more flexible, much more visible, and also with a face to our people who are living abroad. So it is much more customer-centered approach as it was before. Thank you. It was my small introduction, and we really want that make our diaspora policy more natural, more easier, and to find smarter solutions with all of you. That we are very open to all your ideas, how to be more open to our publicity. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Anneli. It was extremely interesting, especially for me, as I'm not working for these topics daily, but I got pretty much new information from your presentation, and hopefully all the others have done the same. And hopefully there are very many among us who are already following the Global Estonian website or just the information. And also there is a very good Facebook account, as I have noticed. So yeah, it's great, and I'm pretty sure that social media is very, very helpful worldwide, and how to gain new contacts as well. And now, of course, I forgot at first or before your presentation to say to everyone who are participating at the moment that, of course, everyone is expecting to have questions, or just please write in our chat window. And while you are doing this, or you are, everyone are thinking over the questions, I have just a short question by myself. Have you met some really unexpected location worldwide where someone keen on Estonianness or Estonian e-residency and have been contacted with you? Is there like any genuine or unexpected location you have met so far?
It's difficult to tell, but for us have been a little bit surprising that there are many Estonians who are living, for example, in Latin America, for example, in Mexico, or in Brazil. Yes, we know that there is a diaspora which is already more than 100 years old, this community. But for example, we launched or we are organizing the camps or just meetings of young people in Estonia, where the youngsters who are until 25 years old can participate in the Estonian courses. That there are many people whose grandfathers maybe have been Estonians, and how do they feel and how they are surprised about Estonian digital success. So it has been really very touching feeling that if you see that the people like find themselves or just find their identity, how much it influences the attitudes and also the career or life of certain person. But this unique countries, for me, it's difficult to tell. So like it in literature is told before by Hemingway, that Estonians you can meet in very, very different countries. So Estonians are really nation who lot of them are living abroad, and you can meet in almost in every country some Estonian.
Mm.
And which is interesting, we made very deep interviews with different people, and which is surprising for us that there are many people who are like invisible for us. We don't know what they are doing, but these people maybe need some small attention, and they can do a lot for our country, or just uh, renew the ties with the country of origin. And which is for me also very positive, that if we organized one webinar where we asked to join young scientists who are working by the universities of some companies. So how interesting careers they have done, and I think that it's important to tell it in our own country about it, about these young people and about this their career success, to show how important people they are for us, that they really feel that we recognizing their career and success, and we're waiting them back in different ways they can do for the development of our country.
It's great to hear. So I personally expect that there will follow new lovely contacts, and of course everyone counts, everyone is important worldwide.
Yes.
So I wish you and to all of your colleagues in the Ministry of Culture a good success with your great work, and hope to meet you in our next conferences or seminars as well. And of course, I will take the next questions after our session. So if there is someone wishing to ask something, of course, you're welcome. But let's first stay tuned and have our two other presentations. So thank you, Anneli, once again, and see you here until the end of this session. So, and now I'm turning to my two young colleagues, Kadisika and Aap Tepper from the National Archives Film Archives, and they are leading specialists in our institution, but currently they both are also project managers, and they have now a joint presentation to have, and they have titled the presentation as Digital Expansion in a Time of Physical Distancing, Large-Scale Digitization Projects at the National Archives of Estonia. So the floor is yours.
So, hello from me as well. I'm Saab, and I'm going to talk about digitization projects, mass digitization projects that are going on right now in Estonia. And first, I'm just gonna give you a short overview of the projects themselves, and then I'm gonna focus on the photographic project that I'm currently managing. So basically, the projects that me and Kadi will be presenting are under this big action plan, which sets its objective to digitize Estonian heritage from the beginning of the 1900s to mid-century. And before the start of the projects, it was estimated that only about a tenth of 9 million heritage objects were digitized and virtually available. So the focus of the action plan is to digitize documents, publications, films, and important objects. So through different projects, the goal is to make digitally accessible 3% of the documentary heritage, 32% of artifacts, 60% of film and photographic heritage, summing up to about 33% of the entire Estonian cultural heritage. And the funding of this action plan comes from the planned European Union structural fund investments. And the plan was prepared through the cooperation of many different ministries and so on. The project management will be carried out by different memory institutions. So projects coordinated by the National Archives are the digitization of documents, film reels, and photographic heritage. And to complete this task, the project needs to map the heritage that needs to be digitized, make sure that all of the materials are prepared for digitization, work with different vendors that compete in tender processes, and ensure that all the objects digitized will be eventually available for the public on different databases. So I'm going to go through the different kind of phases of the photographic project, and then Kadi will talk about the film project. So starting with the photographic heritage project in 2018, at first we needed to map the kind of heritage that needs to be digitized, and we made an open call for memory institutions for negatives created between 1900 to 1960. And this research helped us a lot because after the open call, we visited archives and museums, did site visits, and saw how they are storing the materials, which conditions these materials are in, and how could they be prepared for digitizations. It's a pretty big task to plan these logistics, especially these institutions are all over Estonia, and for the project for the projects, there are participating 24 different museums and archives across Estonia. There are big museums like Estonian National Museum or History Museum, but then there are like small museums who have like 2 or 3 people working for them, and it's very glad that we got this kind of diverse number of institutions working with us. Preparing for the project, we did market research and saw different options, and so the project is in 2 phases. And the first phase, we kind of fitted the digitization of 65,000 film negatives, 35,000 glass plates from 22 different institutions, and the digitization will be done in 2 locations. The first project will conclude in 2022, and the second project, which starts this year with 8 institutions, 5,000 film negatives, 62,000 glass plates, and again, digitization in 2 locations will conclude in 2023. And for this project, there will be 67,000 photographs with descriptions on databases. So in order to start the project in cooperation with the institutions, we had a small budget for preparation of the materials, because many materials need to be prepared for the digitization process. They need to be repackaged, for example, or cleaned or ordered to suit the digitization workflows. This is an example here of the glass plate preparation that was done in the film archives. We are participating with a very large glass plate collection. So this work was done through many years, like 4 or 5 years, to prepare this prepare for the project. So they all needed to be hand cleaned and repackaged, so that the digitization process itself eventually will kind of conclude with long-term preservation of these materials. So beginning with the digitization concept itself, it was important for me to kind of understand what are the standards that are kind of dominant in the world right now, and what are the methodologies of digitization of glass plates, of film negatives, and how could we approach this in a way that that kind of supports the heritage itself. And for me, it was important that that when we digitize, we will get the maximum amount of information out of these materials, and we will get an authentic representation as well. And eventually the materials will stay in the vault after digitization has been completed. This is because we have had digitization projects before, and quite often right now we have to re-digitize for negatives from previous projects. So I would like to see this our projects kind of be more long-term solutions to that. So in that case, I was looking to different standards and practices to have this kind of objective quality control. And for example, with film materials transparencies, there are these film targets that one can use to measure resolution and light and optical conditions when capturing photos, and analyze these in a software that kind of gives you mathematical results, and that kind of helps you to know that you're in the right path, and then the equipment is working fine. And these are the technical requirements for the digitization that we chose. These are basically FADGI 4-star rated requirements. The most notable here are the target resolutions. And we estimated that the film materials will have approximately 3,000 dpi, and glass plates are around 2,000 dpi. So after kind of finding the right methods, we needed to find the right partner as well. So we did 2 international tenders. That the first one was through negotiations, and the possible vendor had to submit a test job, show their past experience, describe their workflows, and also the logistics for the Estonian project, and finally a price estimate as well. And the winner was Pixel Acuity from the States, which is a very well regarded company that does digitization for large museums like the Smithsonian and the Library of Congress in the States. And then there was material logistics themselves, because the digitization had to be done in 2 locations, because with collections that had glass plate collections larger than 5,000 items, we didn't want to travel long distances with them because it's just a safety hazard. So these large collections will be digitized either in Tallinn or Tartu. And then there's pandemic conditions themselves, because the digitization process started early this year, and luckily we had kind of good conditions for that. And the Americans could come here, and we kind of made them like a bubble situation where they could digitize safely. So I'm showing here the process of setting up the benches and digitization itself. This is here them setting up the bench and preparing to digitize the materials. And this is the process of film negative digitization. As you can see, this is like a conveyor method. There are two people who are helping to open the packages, and they give the negatives to the photographer. The photographer captures the image and gives the materials back, and this kind of works in a circular motion. The fastest day, or the day with most production, was around 3,500 film negatives per day. And then I'm going to show the glass plate digitization as well, which had kind of a similar conveyor method, but since the material is quite different, the process was a bit slower. And here, opening and closing the envelopes. And the most productive day for glass plates was 1,600 per day, which is quite a lot. So quality control. Trying to get back to the full screen. Okay. Okay, the quality control during the digitization was that before the start of the day, they captured this kind of film target that had information about resolution and light captured, and how the equipment was working. And then they analyzed this target through this software that gave them mathematical results. And if the capture was good, then they could start the project for the day. If it wasn't good, then they had to do some adjustments to the machine. When they finished digitizing for the day, they uploaded the materials to the cloud, and they were downloaded. These cloud images were downloaded by the in America by the same company, and then they started the post-processing. And when it was finished, they sent us the files to Estonia. And throughout the project, we worked with 3 types of files. JPEGs for quick viewing. This really helped me when I went to the vault and compared the images to the physical items. Then there were TIFFs, which were the kind of final products. And then there were raw images as well that helped me with quality control quite a lot. Here are examples of the file sizes of the film negatives, which were from 50 megabytes to 300 megabytes. Here is the example for glass plates, which was from 300 megabytes up to 500 megabytes, which are quite large images to view and analyze and download and upload as well. This is the process of image quality analysis in the Capture One program, where I could see how the image was cropped, edited, and how much information there was lost or gained. So this really helped, and because these are very large resolution files. The camera that they're operating with is resolving around 10,000 ppi, or it is 100 megapixel camera, and from the glass plates we get really beautiful crops as well. And yeah, this is the final step of quality control, comparing the files to the negatives themselves to see that the naming is done correctly, and there is a connection between the file and the negative. The collections are very interesting, as you can imagine. Photographic heritage from the first part of the 20th century. Estonia has so vivid past, and for example, starting with the first independence, then there's this image collection from Heritage Board that's filled with old buildings from the early 20th century. Then there's occupations, which are interesting to see, just to see how the kind of timeline. It is very interesting to see the timeline of events when quality controlling these images. And there's Second World War as well. And then there are just interesting collections from, for example, the Agricultural Museum. That's just glass plates of different scientific experiments and interesting things. And of course, concluding with the everyday life of Soviet Estonia. So yeah, I could talk about the collections for many hours. It's very interesting materials. But one notable collection I would like to point out is the collection that is our collection right now in the film archives. It is Jaan Riet's glass plate collection, which is quite large. We have around 70,000 Riet's glass plates in the storage in the film archives, and 53,000 of them will be digitized during the two projects. And these are mostly studio portraits and architecture shots from 1900 to 1940s, and mostly made in around Viljandi, Estonia. So it's a very kind of interesting, very large sample size of materials of just the captures of the people that were living at that time in Viljandi. So there's very good research potential in these materials. So the thing that concludes the projects will be publication of images, and we have 5 different databases that the images will be publicized. There is the National Archives database, FOTIS. There is the public portal of museums, MUIS. Then it's the database of Estonian Literary Museum, Kivika, and DSpace for the University of Tartu, and the Elurikkus for materials from the botanical gardens. So this publication will be finished in 2023, and by then these images need to have descriptions as well. So there's quite a lot of describing waiting for the museums when they receive the negatives and the files. There are many challenges, like throughout the project. The first one, like I said, the pandemic conditions and the preparation of materials. The materials are very diverse. There are different formats and different types of archiving systems, and then there's different levels of knowledge as well, different museums. So it's very interesting, but it's very challenging as well, because the materials were digitized according to formats. So if the conditions for the materials from one institution are not great, and for the other are good, then there's just there are time challenges in there, and one of the biggest challenges was the negatives that have been archived before the era of digitization. So the file names were non-sequential, and this is a big challenge for this kind of fast-paced digitization workflow like we have had. So yeah, I'm going to conclude right now, but yeah, this could be a longer presentation. So I'll let Kadi continue here.
Thank you, Aap. I will try to share my screen now. So I hope you can see me and hear me well.
Yes, we do. So go on.
I will just try to be really quick and talk about the film projects. So there are in the action plan, there are 3 film projects. 2 of them are managed by the Film Archive of the National Archives and 1 by the Estonian Public Broadcasting. And 2 projects of the Film Archive are scheduled between 2020 and 2023, altogether to 145 hours of film. So first project includes 120 hours of Soviet Estonian film newsreels from 1940 and 1967. And second project consists of narrative features, newsreels, and documentaries, with the main focus on the documentaries. Now I'm going to talk about the first project, since we are currently dealing with that. Altogether, there are 1,000 hours of 35mm analog film collection at the National Archives of Estonia, and 1/4 of it is the newsreels collection. So 20% of the collection has already been digitized earlier. And by the end of the first project, around 50% of the newsreels collection is digitized and accessible online. The production of local newsreels could be divided into 4 sections, which you can see on the timeline. This project will cover the 3rd section, which is the peak of the production of Soviet Estonian newsreels. This is marked in orange on the timeline. And this is the time when Tallinn Film Studio produced yearly around 50 newsreels. So the selection of the material to be digitized was made based on the content, potential user interest, and physical characteristics of the film material. And I have pointed out some reasons why the decision was made to use newsreels as the source material for mass digitization. So, for example, newsreels are already the most frequently used genre by researcher, and the selection includes coverage of the local life and people over 27 years. And there are a wide range of topics, approximately 5,000 news stories, which is quite attractive to today's audience and has a great potential for digital reuse. So from technical and physical point of view, the selection had to be homogeneous because we were dealing with the huge quantities in comparison with our usual workflow. It was 35mm black and white film selected. This is stored in National Archives vaults in Tallinn and Rakvere. And just to compare the 120 hours, it means 10 million frames, individual frames, 200,000 meters of film, and 924 reels of film. So similar to for the projects, we have outsourced the service provider, digitization and post post-processing was made by joint tenderers, Ratus OÜ and Prasad, and cataloging is done by the NGO Estonian Film Database. So here's the workflow divided into 12 sections. As you can see, it has been very multinational, starting with the preparation of films in our own laboratory, and then digitization also on site in Tallinn, then post-processing in India, and ending up with a quality control, cataloging and publishing in Estonia. So the whole project was managed by ourselves in Tallinn and by Prasad in London and in Chennai in India. We are currently in the middle of the first project. Post-production is done. Cataloging will continue until the middle of the next year. The preparation works included vault management and transportation, as you can see here on in the video. It also included conservation and preparation for the digitization, which was done by 3 conservators during 8 months. And then this conservation work included inspection, repair of the tiers, cleaning of reels, and yeah, you can see here some of the examples of degradation of film, which had to be conserved before digitization. Just before digitization, reels were cleaned in the cleaning machine, and then digitization was carried out on site in Tallinn, being the safest option for the fragile film material. There were 2 people from Prasad, from India, a scanner operator coming from India, and a technician who was writing the preservation copies onto LTO tapes. So as a result of the project, we received 4K raw image sequence. One individual example you can see here on this slide. This is uncompressed, not cropped, not adjusted, just raw TIFF file. And also together with that, we received the audio file. So this was backed up into LTO tapes for long-term preservation. Audio file was also synchronized with the image sequence in Tallinn by Estonian specialists, and then sent out to India for post-production. There was a team of around 20 people in the post-production who were framing, grading, and doing the basic corrections. So the result we received from there was 4K MOV and HD MOV files of each film work as access copies. We also created a web copy, which you can see here, with a database for the database with logo and timecode, in order to make it easier to access files in the database and all the particular clips one is interested in. So it is all available in HD format in our database. So altogether, as a result of the project, we preserved over 10 million preservation copies and nearly 2,000 access copies, which is around 1 petabyte of data. As you can see here on the timeline, digitization and post-production has been completed in summer, and we have already published all the content in the database. However, cataloging of this content continues until next summer. And it will be done then parallel in the Estonian Film Database and in our own database called FIS. In conclusion, just wanted to point out some challenges that we had while being in the middle of the project. Firstly, the large volume. We're going to handle 200,000 meters of film elements, which is for comparison as part of our workflow around 50,000 meters only is digitized per year. Secondly, strict time frame, which was set due to the strict rules of the funding institution. Then cooperation and communication in the multinational team was also challenging, especially in the middle of global pandemic. For example, the scanner operator was tested COVID positive, and we needed to shift the beginning of the work because he had to be self-isolated. And in addition to that, logistics of physical and digital assets was a challenge because the data transfer was slow and it took more time as expected. And lastly, in many steps of the workflow, we needed to choose between automatic and manual approach. For example, because of the digital artifacts generated in post-production, some automatic steps in the workflow was replaced by manual. So if it was manual, it took also more time to complete. But other than that, it was our pleasure to work with such a great team, and we're really happy with the result and looking forward to completing the first project and continue with the second stage of the project. And finally, I encourage you all to dig into the database and reuse the digital film heritage, which is really perfect study material, nice entertainment as well. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kadi, and thank you, Aap. So it was extremely compact and word by word moving overview. So thank you once again. And as the time is running very fast because of the fact that it's night here in Estonia, I guess. So we are now taking no question at the moment, but let's move to our last presentation in this session. And here we have my colleague Sven Lepa, Deputy Head of Access and Inquiry Department in Tartu at the National Archives of Estonia. And Sven is also a very experienced archivist and also dealt with many crowdsourcing projects. But today he will speak about handwritten text recognition. So please, Sven.
Thank you, Birgit. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see my slides. Good.
Yes,
so
yes, you are visible.
Yeah, that's lovely. As I have 2 minutes, I'm gonna jump right into it.
But please, Sven, please take your time at least 10 to 15 minutes, because I'm afraid that we are, of course, we have to be quick, but we are just doing a quicker break. So
okay, that's good.
Yeah,
I already deleted a few slides to make it a little bit faster.
Okay.
So yeah, what's the problem we're trying to solve here? I'm guessing most of you have come in contact with kind of the online offerings of the National Archives of Estonia. So you're aware of Saga, our kind of online repository for all of our or at least the digitized documents. You saw photographs and films are a different beast and so on. Where we have in Saga, we have over 26 million images. How do you kind of find the information you're looking for here in Saga or in general in the archives? We have our archival information system ICE, which should have kind of all of our collections searchable based on the title. So everything sort of looks great and lovely, but the truth of it is that often enough it's quite hard for our users to find the information that they are actually looking for. So titles in ICE can be rather superficial, as you can see here. Even if they are more detailed, you still get only kind of the most important persons kind of mentioned in the documents. You don't get everything, or you can't search everything inside them. And also with Saga, it makes your life a lot easier, but still the work you have to put in to kind of go through the digitized documents can still be rather time consuming. So of course, we are looking for different ways to open up our collections, to make them searchable via crowdsourcing. Our archivists work on that every day, and so on and so on. And one kind of solution we have been working on for the last few years is automated text recognition. That's something that has worked rather well for libraries for a time already with OCR. It's a wonderful tool, an easy way to kind of make their books and newsletter papers and so on kind of searchable for everyone. But of course, with handwritten text, that doesn't really work. Then again, you can't really say that handwritten text recognition is a very kind of new technology. In some way, it has existed for decades. Here you can see kind of the postal code system from Soviet Russia, that was kind of introduced in the 70s, which basically kind of an automated way to recognize kind of the numbers of the postal code. Of course, it was really kind of neatly organized. You had to write the numbers in a special way, making it easier for the machine to recognize. But still, kind of today, you basically can use on your tablet kind of handwritten text instead of a keyboard, which you see kind of works quite well. Well, then again, of course, historical handwritten texts are a different beast. But also there, over the last few years, with kind of developments in artificial intelligence, there has been made a huge leap, which has made the recognition of historical handwritten texts a reality. The tool we have been working with, which is probably the most well known in that area, is Transcribers. Transcribers was created over two European projects. Those have ended now, and kind of to make the platform sustainable, a society called ReadCoop was created. The National Archives are also a member of that, so they run Transcribers. This means also that the platform isn't free for use anymore. For the text recognition, you have to pay. Everything else is still free. So what does working with the Transcribers mean? First of all, once you have uploaded your documents, you have to find where the text in the images is. This is being done automatically. You see one of the results here, where the computer finds text areas here in green, then the lines and the baseline under each line along which the text is written. Most of the time, this works rather well. Of course, not always. Here you can see sometimes it just misses a line or two. Sometimes it finds too much here with all the extra little pieces of text. But so this means that there's still some kind of some work you have to do by hand. But generally, it works quite well. After that, after you have found your text in the image, you have to create the training data, then train the computer to learn to recognize similar handwritten texts. This is, I guess, the kind of the most time-consuming, or the most the workflow where we most expect human input and the need human input. But mostly it is said that you need maybe around 25 to 75 pages of text to start training a text recognition model. So this, as you can see, the unit Transcribers works with, the text unit is a line. so kind of the smallest unit. So by line, you just write down what's written in the text as it appears. And after that, oh yes, sure. They also, just kind of the professional tool that you have to download. They also have an online tool for working with these documents that we also have used, like the crowdsourcing way that we can make public to our users, or at least we have worked with one user this way. So it's easier for them to work with the text, and they don't need extra tools in their computer. So after you have created training data, you can start training the model, or more exactly, you can tell the computer to start training a model. You just select what you have, what material you want the model to train on, but you leave some of the text that you have transcribed yourself out for testing. So most of it goes to training, where the computer learns, yes, here there is an A, I need to see an A here. But to make sure that the model also works kind of in the wild, not just on the documents that it's learning on, you leave some for it for testing. So to show you what we have done, I'm going to go through a few of or the most important tests we have made. But before that, over the last 2 years or so, Transkribus has grown enough that often enough there actually isn't a need anymore for users to train their own models. Here you can see public models that everybody can use to work on, or to recognize the text in their documents. There are have been quite large groups or projects behind these models. For example, that just go beyond like over 1 million words that the model has been trained on for Dutch, for historical German documents, and so on and so on. So the whole training process, more and more you can leave out. So we started, I think, in 2018 with a little test built around the minutes of the Estonian knighthood. From the beginning of the 20th century, German Gothic handwriting. Why did we pick this? Because it's something that we already had published. So the text was there. I had to break it down in lines for Transkribus, but still I didn't have to transcribe everything. It was also kind of interesting to start out with that, because there's basically one writer who has written all of these documents. There's marginalia from a different writer, but that wasn't, it's just a small part anyway, that didn't really matter. So here you can see the results of training the model. You can see here the epochs, which means how many times the computer has worked through this training material. And you can see how over time it has become better and better with each epoch. The blue line means the percentage of errors or wrong characters in the train set. But the more important one is the red line, which shows the mistakes in characters in the test set. So it goes down rather fast and stayed like around 5%. So 5% of misrecognized characters in the text. But as these documents are really only from one writer, we try to implement it on different documents, even still quite simple Gothic German documents. And you can see it sort of works. It's written here, Lehrer noch nicht, lese nach nicht. Most of it is right, but it doesn't really work too well. So as our next experiment, we made our life a little bit harder. Worked with 17th century petitions to the Governor General of Estonia. mostly again German documents, but from many different writers. We had the opportunity here to work with a volunteer, which made our life a lot easier. And you can see now that the mistake percentage is much larger. It's around 17%. But it's also interesting to see how the technology has evolved in these years, because soon after we created this model, a new engine was uploaded in Transkribus for text recognition, and using exactly the same materials, we trained a new model, and now the percentage for mistakes was like 10% lower, only 7.5%. Here is an example of the result. The one line with an old model, with a new model, and kind of the correct line. You can see a lot less mistakes. It's also interesting to see that you basically can, as you are the one who teaches the computer to recognize text, you can teach it whatever signs you want to. Here, for example, the sign for sun is used, which it recognizes rather well, as we have taught it to do. But even with kind of the mistake percentage of around 20%, you can still the result is still usable, because the whole kind of process of artificial intelligence is based around what do you call it? Likelihood. As the result, it shows you what it sees as the most likely text that is in the document, but it also sees many other possibilities. What could be written there? So the Transkribus have created a search engine to go through these other possible results. Here, for example, they call it keyword spotting. And here, for example, we can see that the computer thought that the most likely result here is Remt, but I searched for Reval, Tallinn, and we can see that, yeah, it actually is Reval written here. So this way you can work with the problems of the computer, kind of go beyond them. Don't get stuck in the kind of only the first most likely result the computer sees. Our third little test was with the minutes of the Tartu City Council from the 1920s. We had the possibility to work with students from the Tartu University. You can see it's typewritten text, so this was rather easy. But it was also kind of interesting to try out, as you have also the possibility of tagging named entities and so on here in Transkribus to do that. It's not automated. They haven't implemented named entity recognition in Transkribus, although they are planning it. And maybe here we have all created for ourselves some good training data for that point. Yeah, as you can see from the learning curve, it went down rather easy and stayed around 1%, a bit over. But still looking at kind of implementing this result, you can see here, for example, the number sign, which it did not recognize, as in our training data, we did not have any instances of the number sign being used. So again, you have to be careful which characters you actually teach the computer and which you leave out. Now, finally coming to our big project, which we don't call a test anymore. After these little tryouts, we started to think what would be the kind of the material our users would have the most use of when we make them public, make the recognized text public. So we arrived, as most of our users are genealogists, we arrived at the Russian Orthodox birth registers from the second half of the 19th and early 20th century. again, many different hands that have written the text here, a total of about 200,000 pages. The thing is that these, of course, are structured documents, and we don't really need to get everything out of them, all of the text here. But Transkribus also offers the possibility to train the computer to only find certain things in the structure. So these the birth registers can be quite different structure-wise. You can see the two examples here, but still, with a lot of work, we managed to teach the computer to recognize only name of the child and the information about the parents in these documents, leaving out everything else. This, of course, again, with everything here based around AI, doesn't happen without problems. So you can see here, for example, it lost the beginning of a line. Here it sees two lines only as one line, so we again lose some information. Here with training Transkribus to recognize structure, the thing is that it kind of forgets how to recognize lines that it normally does rather well with the layout analysis, because we don't only teach here how to find the lines of text, we also teach the computer how to kind of omit certain lines. So it sort of has to start from the beginning, and that's why here and there the quality is worse than with regular layout analysis. As for the text recognition, here you can see early examples here where there's actually no text at all. It saw the text coming through the page, and because a lot of you have a lot of repeating parts in these entries as they go, like this person from wherever and his wife so and so had a child, and so on. So basically every entry has the words Yevo Zhena, his wife, in them. So here where it's the line is actually empty, the computer thought that there's written Yevo Zhena, Yevo Zhena, Yevo Zhena. But this was only kind of the early days of our textual recognition model, and we still are working. We still have to a lot of work to do with the model also. But the results right now still leave us quite optimistic. You can see here quite good example, just a few mistakes. Or let's look at the worst example where the text already or the digitized image already isn't too good. Here, of course, you have quite a few mistakes, but we are still working on creating a better model, and we hope to start making these birth registers public next year. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sven. Extremely interesting once again, and hopefully there will be soon enough in very close future possible to recognize many texts despite the language and despite even a very bad handwriting style. But we will see. So as we are having a very, very tight timeline by now, and I can't see any question in chat window, I will turn directly to Piret, who is chair of our next session. And I have some information that we should follow right now our second session and not have any break. Or Piret, you can comment it by yourself.
Yes, let's do that, because listeners can take their breaks whenever they want to, but the speakers are ready, and we are running late. And I hope, Marin, that you can hear me and you are here. Please open your camera and mic. And our next speaker would be Marin Laak, senior researcher at the Estonian Literary Museum. And she will be talking about the activities at the Estonian Literary Museum. It's a very intriguing title, A Game of Ludo, Virtual Tours of the Estonian Literary Museum. Marin, please. And if you have PowerPoint, share the screen.
Hello, everybody. Do you see me and hear me? Because I can't see myself. Hello?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
So 20 minutes, Marin, right?
Yes, I try. I tried to. Hello, hello to everybody from Tartu. Our time is approximately midnight. So for the Estonian Literary Museum in Tartu, the COVID pandemic has brought new, even exciting opportunities for archival exhibitions. And the title of my presentation, The Game of Ludo, is the Game of Ludo and as you know, this is an old board game known internationally and in which the players compete in a race to travel around the world. And in Estonian, the title is just that, the trip around the world, Reis ümber maailma. In my presentation, I will talk about the experiences, concerns and joys of organizing virtual exhibitions. I chose Ludo, Latin for I play, for the title of my presentation because just as in the game, we had to find quickly the right strategy for organizing exhibitions. Second, the right team in the game. And third, to move speedily home, that is, toward the goal, and very importantly, to take our exhibition to interested audiences throughout the world in virtual space. And I will try to use Google Analytics user statistics to measure the success of our efforts. And this will show whether our expectations are to be confirmed or rather that our illusions be shattered. And there are many of you who know this, but I will emphasize that the Literary Museum is not a typical museum, but rather the state research and development institutions with archives. We have 3 great archives, which are almost 100 years old: the Archival Library, the Estonian Folklore Archives, and the Estonian Cultural History Archives, where the heritage of Estonian literary culture is kept, including manuscript archives and photos. And after the same time, the Literary Museum is a contemporary research institution and houses the Center of Excellence of Estonian Studies. And there are 32 researchers and 32 archivists working in the building as well as supporting staff. The Literary Museum is not formally expected to organize the exhibits, and we do not sell tickets, but the name museum obligates in its own way, as in the saying "Jeunesse oblige." Usually photos, manuscripts, documents, and originals of printed materials have been brought out of the archives and exhibited in glass cases. in the conference hall and along the corridors. Such exhibits are usually organized for the significant anniversaries of cultural figures, and 3 to 5 are shown per year. What is a virtual tour? And here in this slide, you can see the characteristics of virtual exhibits by Olga Ivaskevich, the digital archivist of Estonian Folklore Archives. This is a specific term used when introducing exhibits exhibitions on web. A virtual tour can simply be a video of exhibition hall and the items on exhibit. More frequently, however, it refers to the specific software by means of which the virtual exposition is created. The visitor can move through the exhibits at his or her own pace, read about them, zoom in on, and so on. On the Literary Museum's homepage, web exhibitions are referred as a virtual tours. What this means is a website with completely new technical possibilities created by the Literary Museum's young IT engineer Inga Kolasova in this picture. The first virtual tour bears the name From Beginning of Time, or From the Archival Library to the Estonian Literary Museum. And the curator of it was Merike Kiipus, the head of Archival Library. And here in the slide, the director, but I would like to quote her feedback. The first virtual exhibition was created in conjunction with marking the 100th anniversary of the Archival Library on April 2019. And the last sentence, the exhibition was the first of its kind and brought a great joy to its makers. After the opening the first tour, our tours began to appear like mushrooms after a rain, and a total of 13 virtual exhibitions are currently open at the Literary Museum, but only six of these new exhibitions were created from photos of traditional exhibitions, but 5 were created directly on the digital site. So 6 of them are the photos of these glass boxes, and only 5 are created originally in the digital environment. And the first real virtual exhibition was created on the occasion of the 155th birthday of Estonian Folklore Archives grand old man Oskar Lorits in November last year. Almost all workers in the archive collaborated in putting the exhibition together. And it was extraordinarily rich in information. The curator was the digital archivist Olga Ivaskevich. The exhibition introduces Oskar Lorits through photos, manuscripts, and articles, beginning with his genealogy and ending with recollections of him by colleagues. The Estonian Cultural History Archives first virtual exhibition, Kaplinski's Journey, was opened on the 80th birthday of the poet, writer, and philosopher Jan Kaplinski in January this year. The composition of the Kaplinski's exhibition was a kind of experimental range of our small team, because we had no previous experience in putting together such kind of virtual exhibitions. We thought on the grand scale and took as our goal to show all the books Kaplinski had written and translated. There were many boxes of books. I remember 4 or 5 from our archival library. Putting together the exhibition began with digitizing the covers of all the books, which took several days. Traditionally, each exhibition includes an author's life story. In the age of internet, the presentation of the biography as a text somehow seemed too simple, and we took a creative approach. And instead of life narrative, we presented links to online lexicas in which author's life story had already been published. For example, Estonian Writers Online Dictionary, EVOD, in English. Secondly, we let the writer's own voice ring out. For this, we searched the archives of Estonian broadcasting and also YouTube for all the speeches and interviews in which Kaplinski talked about his family or childhood and whom or where he had read his own poetry. Thirdly, we established a link between the exhibition and Kaplinski's blogs, as you see in this slide. In addition, one can listen to Kaplinski's performances of his own poetry in the sound files of the CD recorded in Literary Museum, and this is a very great possibility to listen to his voice. The Cultural History Archive's second virtual exhibition was in the Temple of Mnemosyne. It was opened on 7th of May this year in the occasion of the 75th birthday of literary researcher Ruth Hinrichs. And Ruth has been our dear colleague and the great grand old lady of Estonian life stories collection. Similarly to Kaplinski exhibition, this one is structured around the principle of chronology, beginning with Ruth's coming to work at the Literary Museum in 1972, so 49 years ago. In the exhibition, we showed photographs, letters, and manuscripts from our collection. We highlighted the covers of all the books that Ruth has published. Our young colleague Maarja Hollo made Ruth's own voice heard by choosing witty and striking quotations from Ruth articles. At the height of Corona restrictions in May this year, the third virtual exhibition of Culturalist Archives was completed. On the occasion of the 110th anniversary of the birth of Swedish Estonian artist and poet Arno Vihalem. The exhibition had the same title, the mix up around Pegasus, which alliterates nicely in Estonian Pegasuse segadusest, as the small conference organized in cooperation with Palternet and Piret Noorhani in the end of May, in 26th of May. The exhibition presents Arno Vihalem as an artist who designed many books by Estonian writers in exile, as well as his own books of poetry. Similarly to other exhibitions, this is also a virtual archival exhibition of Vihalem's photographs and manuscripts. The life and works of the author are made lively by biographical photo gallery. And the quotations from the articles about the artist and poet has been added in this last slide. In summary, each exhibition developed a narrative of the author's life and work, which was presented chronologically by decades through text, pictures, photos, and sound recordings. Secondly, the composition of all the exhibitions entailed extensive work with digitizing printed materials and photos, as well as metadata. And third, digitized archival materials were presented in combination with web resources. And one could predict the number of visitors that virtual tours would draw. We expected that there will be visitors from all over the world, and that there will be many. The Literary Museum is able to track the use of its web resources using Google Analytics. And we see that from January to 10th of September this year, so to last Friday, the virtual tours have been visited 8,000 and approximately 900 times, and this number is growing all the time. Of which, and it's important, more than 6,000 were first-time visitors. In this slide presents an overview of all the visitors from January to September. Attendance peaks at the opening of exhibitions. Kaplinsky in January, Henrikus and Vihalem in May. This slide shows the geographical distribution of visitors to the exhibitions Kaplinsky's journey. The visitors.
2 minutes. Sorry, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yes, and this was very surprising that even the exhibition is only in Estonian. There were more English-speaking than Estonian-speaking visitors, and this is new users and return users. Nüüd conclusions, some main conclusions. To summarize, I would like to highlight 5 conclusions on the composition of virtual tours. particularly compared to ordinary traditional exhibitions. And you can see here in this slide five points, but I would like to highlight the last one, that the number of visitors of virtual exhibitions depends on the dissemination of information in social media and list, and communication is crucial. And also maybe important this second one, that the space is not limited, but this might be a bit of trick or even a trap. The concept of the exhibition must be very clear in advance. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Marin. Thank you for being in time. And please stop the screen share so we can see other people here. So if you are still awake by the end of the session, you are welcome back to answer the questions. I hope there would be some. So can you, okay, thank you. So thank you so very much. Now we travel to Riga, and our next speaker would be Evita Feldenthaler from the Museum of Occupation of Latvia, and she's a curator of the Audiovisual Archive. And I know that you are just about to move back to your old house or to your new house. I don't even know how to call it. So you have very exciting times here. And if you could switch on your camera as well, would be great. We could see you too.
You don't see me?
Now we see you.
Yes,
thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, greetings from Riga, and we are looking forward to get back to the original building, but now the process of building in the new exhibition have started. So we are looking forward to get back. But thank you for interesting presentations so far, and tonight I will try to represent the Museum of the Occupation, and more specifically the Audiovisual Archive of the museum. There you can see the content of my presentation, where I will try to explain the work we have done while there were restrictions on shooting video testimonies, which is the main job we do. In previous conferences organized by Baltic Heritage Network, I, Orlelde Neyman, and my colleague, we have more focused on the video testimonies and their content. Up till now, our video testimony collection consists of 2,420 video testimonies, or it takes approximately 4,500 hours to listen all of them. Besides video testimonies, we also have filmed events, some audio testimonies, and small collection of film materials, which we continue to digitize. We continue to gather video testimonies, but today or tonight, depending on where you are located, I want to focus on the smaller part of the archive, photo collection. We scan after we have finished to film video testimonies of each person. For now, we have around 780 photo collections. And why do I say around? Explanation is easy. When we interview family members, in most cases, they share photo albums. But the document which allows us to use the material is signed by one person. There you can see a picture where there is defined the name of the person or family. Like, for example, Aistare Lydia is one person, but then there is family of Cirli or Gertnerit. In those 780 photo collections, there are approximately 27,000 pictures. It would be average 34 photos per person, but in reality, different collection sizes varies, starting from one picture we scan, going up to a few hundred pictures from the person. To be sure about the quality of the pictures, at the very beginning of when the process of gathering pictures started, colleague did take more than one copy of every picture. So we have duplicates, and you can also see in the bigger picture that there are three photographs looking the same. During the process of entering data in database, now we are more focusing on quantity of entered data, not quality, leaving the process of processing those duplicate files for future. For now, you can also see that the content of the collection is very wide, including not only photographs, but also different documents, pieces of art, and other awards and other different materials. Until the project where we made extension to our video testimony database, all the photo collections were stored in maps, but description of pictures, if it was available, was written on paper or in Word document files. Some people do not even have any pictures, or pictures are not connected to the topic or people they are talking about. A lot of people who don't have photographs during video testimonies explain why their photo albums were gone or why they have destroyed the photos by themselves. There are also a small number of pictures in our collection where you can see the consequences of the political regime on photographs. Relatives were cut off, signs that they were members of different organizations or armed forces were colored over. When the technological possibilities developed and portable scanners were offering high enough quality for scanned photos, the number of photos increased, so did the topics covered in photos increased. There you can see different examples. There you can see different examples of pictures with stories. There on the left corner, you can see the picture of pictures, photo of photographs. And that's the only available picture of father or for one person whose father was the soldier of German army. There is also a picture of a drawing, and that's the only available image of father's interviewee he have never met. And then there is the picture of two girls, which shows that the part of it was cut off. Father in Gulag cut off his wife because she wrote in the letter that it is advisable to divorce the husbands or wives in gulags. And then there is a picture with the church in background, which shows the last picture of father and grandmother with a baby before they were expelled from the Soviet Union. When we return to the collection itself, it becomes clear that because of its size, it is hard to work with it, or it is easy to forget about all the valuable things we have, because up till recent times, files were stored in maps with descriptions in Word or in paper format. There is also a part of the collection without photo descriptions, which makes the usage of those pictures more complicated. We had this part of collection, but we had no time to realize actual size of it. Until recently, the state of emergency did not allow us to continue to shoot the video testimonies. So we had time to focus on the work with those photo collections. And first step was to enter all available photo descriptions from paper to Word files. And you could ask, why do we have photo descriptions on paper? When there is expedition, the aim of the expedition is to shoot as many video testimonies as possible. So there is no time to pay more attention to description of photos. So when the crew returns to the museum in Riga, they print out all the photo scans, send them back to the person, and they describe them by themselves and send them back to the museum, where we take the description and enter it on computer. And as you may know, the most part of interviewees are quite old and are not very friendly with the computers. So when there were a lot of expeditions, then the work with those paper descriptions were just delayed. They were stored in the maps at the museum. Then there are cases when those persons forget to send those descriptions back, and so we have part of collection without descriptions. And then there is part of people who are showing their pictures and describing them during the video testimony. So this is kind of challenging, because we have to listen video testimonies once again to write down the description of photos. When the state of emergency started, the State Culture Capital Foundation in Latvia allowed to write projects with the aim to improve availability of the museum collections for wider public. And we decided to focus our work on the photo collection, and project got financed. Project lasted 6 months, and the programmer who already worked with the main database made an extension. As far as it is made for inner use, interface is not the most handsome, but for our internal use, it is quite suitable. To be honest, we continue to work with it, and we are having regular feedback meetings, and some improvements are being made from time to time. Extension allows us to also upload not only pictures, but also PDF files, but those files do not give us the preview as pictures does. There is no limit in the amount of text we can enter to describe the file, and this helps us to describe the photos without existing descriptions. We describe the things or places we see by ourselves. For now, this database extension is meant only for inner use, but we plan to develop this extension as a part of our homepage, where visitors could search for pictures by themselves. There you can see the preview of the photo collection. Preview includes 10 pictures per page. If you move cursor on one picture, it shows the preview. If the text is written, of course. If there is no text, you cannot see the preview. And there you can see the picture with full description, and it is possible to delete picture from extension, which is very important, because we have to delete those duplicates. If there is no description, then it is possible to search picture by dates or years. But first we have to enter them. And my presentation is not that long, so I'm getting close to the end of it. But technically, all pictures are stored on server, and at the same time, files is possible to store also in PDF files, as I told before. Original or high quality photos are still stored as previous, so this extension allows us to find the exact picture, and then we know the map where to look for original. We scan all the pictures in high quality format, but the extension allows us to store those smaller pictures. Yeah, but this is also a challenge because we scan those high quality images, but before entering them into database, we have to convert them. And then there is list of challenges we have to face while working with this extension. As I mentioned before, there are part of collection without descriptions. And that makes us ask ourselves how and what to describe to make pictures more available for maximum audience, and how to provide safe access to this huge amount of data for audience, so they could find photos they are actually looking for. And we are also looking forward to see problems we don't know yet. So I'm actually looking forward for tomorrow's presentation on how to describe or experience with describing photos. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Evita. Thanks so much, please. And if you can, please stay with us so we can take some questions at the end of the session. And our last speaker today is Dalia Slitsikaite from Vilnius, from Martynas Mažvydas National Library of Lithuania. And she will talk about their international project, Migration in Art and Science. So, Dalia, please.
I'm here. Thank you, Piret. So, thank you for the panelists on my session for being so disciplined with their presentation, so I could make my presentation even earlier than I thought. My presentation will take you back to pre-pandemic years, actually the period of 2017 and 2019. That's when the National Library of Lithuania worked or took part in the international project called Migration in the Arts and Sciences, a Europeana Migration Thematic Collection. The duration of the project was 2.5 years. We started in 2017, September 1st, and ended in 2019, February 28. And we were not, we were just partners. Europeana was the initiator and the administrator of the project. And we partnered with another 6 memory institutions in Europe, and they are the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium, the Hungarian National Archives, the Polish National Film Archive Visual and Audio Institute, the Dutch Audiovisual Institute, and the Serbian National Library. And the aim of the project was to create a specialized thematic collection reflecting migration in European arts and science using cultural heritage housed in partnering memory institutions. To achieve this goal through the contribution of both prominent and ordinary migrants to the progress of European culture and science was one of the goals of this project as well. And the new Europeana collection was to include virtual exhibitions and galleries of photographs, audiovisual material, and of course, documentary heritage or documents. We started the project in 2017, and the project was started with the event, a live event, where all the partners or the representatives of the partners gathered in The Hague. And during the meeting, participants learned about the strategies for publishing Europeana's thematic collections. We were also introduced to tools for editing selected material, such as blogs, galleries, and collections. The participants of the meeting also had the opportunity to present the material intended for the collection and more interesting objects. A representative from National Library of Lithuania also took part in the meeting and presented a few interesting collections housed at the National Library of Lithuania. The project consisted of several stages since the National Library of Lithuania houses mostly the published documents, the documentary heritage. We were in charge of selection and description of objects, also scanning, transferring metadata and images, selected images to e-paveldas, that's the local, the Lithuanian cultural portal, and then from there to Europeana, also creation of exhibitions and galleries, dissemination of the information about the project and its activities. And Europeana also had another two stages. One of them is migration dictionary development and translation into EU languages, and also live event called Europeana Migration. So the National Library of Lithuania selected objects depicting migration in the arts and science. We digitized almost 3,000 selected objects during the entire project. We transferred them to Europeana. We also created 4 thematic collections and also worked on dissemination about the project and its activities. Our library also, when selecting objects, we looked into bigger or more substantial collections. So we found 4 personal collections housed in the National Library of Lithuania, especially rich collection of Aleksandras Mykolas Račkus, also Jonas Šliūpas, who was very active in the US and Lithuania as well, but in the US especially at the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century. Also Unia Babickaitė Bayer, the film and theater actress and director, and Matas Šalčius, who was or still is the Lithuanian Marco Polo traveler and businessman. A considerable part also consisted of advertisements and announcements stored at the National Library of Lithuania. Most of them, the majority of them, were published in the US by Lithuanian immigrants in the 19th century, the beginning of 20th century. When selecting the objects, we took into account that that the theme of the thematic collection is migration, but we also really thought about the visitor of Europeana portal, who is multilingual and not necessarily knows the Lithuanian language, which means that we looked for documents, and we preferred documents that were written not in Lithuanian or not just in Lithuanian, but other languages, for example, English, German, Russian, French, Polish. So here on this slide, you see an image or a scanned image of the business card of the hotel, the Muraya Hotel, which we found at the in the Matas Šalčius, whom I mentioned just a second ago, collection. As I mentioned already, the National Library of Lithuania also wrote during the project, also wrote a few blogs or texts for Europeana blog. The first blog was published in 2019 on February, and it was about the Lithuanian linguist Jonas Jablonskis. Here you see the print screen of the Europeana blog. The second blog, entitled "The World Was Her Stage, the Extraordinary Life and Times of Lithuanian Actor," was dedicated to the Lithuanian theater and film actress and director Unia Baja. We also were very happy to find out that the text made or was included in the 2019 Europeana's Women History Month, and it was very well received and actually visited by many visitors of Europeana. On April the same year of 2019, a third blog about the first wave of Lithuanian immigrants at the end of 19th century and at the beginning of the 20th century in the US was published on Europeana. The author Giedrė Milerytė Japertienė, who was heading the project, was she was the author of that blog. And the final blog called A Lithuanian Museum Mission: The Life and Legacy of Aleksandras Mykolas Račkauskas, was dedicated to the Lithuanian American numismatist, collector, and journalist Aleksandras Mykolas Račkus, who actually, when Lithuania gained independence in 1918, came to Lithuania and established a Lithuanian museum using most of the objects collected by him in the US. At the end of the project, Europeana decided to publish, to write and then publish an article which introduced the thematic collection. The article was called People on the Move: How Migration Has Changed the World, and it was published on the International Migrant Day, which is celebrated annually on December 18th. And the National Library of Lithuania contributed to the creation of the gallery by suggesting a poster, which is called "Thank You Lithuania for Thank You America for Lithuania's Recognition." The poster was created and published by American Lithuanian Augustinas Laukžemis in 1922. I mentioned already about us being very conscious about Europeana's visitor. When we started selecting objects and then working on metadata of those objects, we took into account that the audience of Europeana doesn't read the only Lithuanian language. That's why for every object we provided 2 languages, Lithuanian and English. And also another novelty for us as a library, when creating metadata, we use the keyword. We actually we actually put a keyword on every object. Migration, the keyword is migration, and in Lithuanian it's migracija. So on the Lithuanian local website epaveldas.lt, you could search for that entire collection by entering the keyword migracija. On Europeana, you can search the collection with the keyword Lithuanian migration, or entering the names of the people whose collections we scanned. Matas Šalčius, Unija Baja, Aleksandras Račkauskas, and Juozas Šliūpas. And at the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned that the National Library of Lithuania took part only in a few activities, not in the entire project. We did not participate in the development and translation into Lithuanian language of the immigration dictionary initiated by Europeana, nor did we contribute to the live Europeana Migration Collection Days, which invited people to come to libraries and archives bringing a memento dear to them and telling their migration stories. As far as I know, more than 170 stories have been collected and recorded in such events, and only in the year of 2000, alone in the year of 2018, 17 such events took place. They took place in Ireland, Greece, the Netherlands, Latvia, Serbia, Croatia, Romania, Belgium, and other countries. Nevertheless, during the project, the National Library of Lithuania was able to look at the archives housed on its shelves, look for migration topic, select quite a few objects, digitize them. I mentioned almost the 3,000 objects, which is quite a lot. And today we can find those objects both on Lithuanian portal epaveldas.lt and on the Europeana. And I was going to, I don't know if I have time, I was going to show you I do have 2 minutes,
yes,
5 minutes.
Yes, please.
To show you the Europeana website, and to show that you can search using keywords Lithuanian migration. As you see, it gives you 450 results. So these are mostly the announcements and advertisements published at the beginning of at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century in the US. If you enter, for example, Unija Baja, one of the personalities collections, you can also see 200, almost 50 results. And as I mentioned, the metadata is in 2 languages, in Lithuanian, in bigger font, and in English in smaller font. You can see that this one, for example,
You have to
is.
share the screen, Dalia.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Sorry about that. Here you go. So, for example, one of the objects, as I mentioned earlier, we try to be very conscious on what language we should select and scan. So this one is, for example, a letter to Uniabaye in English by, let's see, by Blanche Yvonne Smith, either to London or Paris, written in 1928, 1929. So let me show you the first one because you didn't see. Here you see Lithuanian immigration keyword in the search window. And these are the so-called small publications, advertisements, and announcements. I click on it, and I have an image, and I have it in Lithuanian and English. And of course, you can download it, and I think the copyright is also safe, so you can use it. So I think that's about it from me, and I think I'm almost there. It's one on my computer. It's 1 minute past midnight.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I haven't seen any questions from the audience, but I have some my own questions, and I would start with you because you are here on the screen already. You mentioned the collections you used for the project, but you probably have more materials. So what's the future of the project? Is it ongoing, or is it?
Unfortunately, it's not. I think it just gave us a taste of what it could be. If I understand correctly, Europeana is planning to work on similar projects, not necessarily on migration, on the topic of migration, but they're trying to create as many thematic collections as they can, inviting different memory institutions and asking them to participate. So I guess it just gave us, it was a good impulse for us to go to the to the shelves to see what we have, also think of what is interesting not just to our local audience but to Europeana as well, or to broader audience. But yeah, it's only 2.5 year long project, and unfortunately it's not ongoing. Yeah.
Did it change the policy of your collecting work, or what to do with your collections? Did it give you some other ideas you can use like in your everyday life? Any extras which came with the project?
I would say that I think it put us in a different perspective, or made us find a different perspective how to look at those archives, those collections we have. Sometimes we tend to think that they're not interesting. They're interesting only to a very narrow circle of researchers. And here we're discovering things that might be interesting to broader audience, as the example of Uniabaye, the Lithuanian actress and director. We were really surprised and amazed that the blog we wrote made to the among other texts dedicated to the Women's History Month. It was really nice, because sometimes we just don't, we underappreciate a lot of things we have in the library. So I think it's perhaps it changed the perspective, how we see, how we look at our archives.
Right. Evita, are you there? Can you come back with the camera and the mic? You talked about describing the photos which people talked about when you conducted the videos. It's a very familiar situation for me because we have huge oral history collections here, and there are people talking about photos which we don't have. Do you usually have those photos, or are they just like part of this interview?
So the answer would be like this. The audiovisual archive was started in 1994, and the first video testimony was taken in 1996. And the head of the audiovisual archive at that time already knew that this is something valuable we have to gather together, and there were no such big technological possibilities as we have now. And he asked to describe the pictures he wanted to later take photos of. So we actually have them in most cases, I would say.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I know it's time consuming to get those descriptions out of the videos, but at least
it is, yes.
But at least you have photos, and that's very important, because if you have just the stories without pictures, then something very important is missing, like from the big picture, right? Marin, what about you? Are you still awake? Can you come back, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. I have a question to you too. What's the next exhibit for the Cultural History Archives, or did you stop making those online tours when you came back to like normal life and COVID restrictions were lifted?
I would like to, but in December this year we will celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Estonian great international poet, surrealist, and anarchist Ilmar Laaban. And now we don't know yet, we don't have a direct plan yet how we can organize this exhibition, because Ilmar Laaban's archive consists I don't know, sounds and different kind of sounds, and because he was a häälutaja in Estonia, I don't know how is it in English. So
yeah, he was
häälutus, so sound poetry.
Yeah, yes,
kind of sound poetry, yes.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah.
So it will be maybe extraordinary exhibition.
Yeah, it has to come with
surrealistic.
It has to come with sound, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Maybe we should start planning for some collaboration for the next year, because Arve Viirlaits,
yes,
120 if I'm correct, and also Salme Ekholm's, like those anniversaries are approaching, and we definitely want to do something for both of them, but maybe we can join forces and do something together.
Yes, it's a good idea, because we are also planning to celebrate the Arve Viirlaits birthday anniversary. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, any other questions? I can see that Australia is awake. Good. You are waking up finally. And we lost some volts because it's really midnight. If not, again, many thanks to all our presenters today, and also listeners, and also to Rasmus and Karin working behind the scenes. And we are back here tomorrow, 30 minutes earlier than today. And there would be some more community talk, because our colleagues, Estonian colleagues from Sweden would be with us, and we have Mayra Bunja from US and me from Toronto. So lots of interesting talks for tomorrow as well. So thank you very much. Sweet dreams. Birgit, thank you for chairing the first session. And sweet dreams, and see you tomorrow. Or
Thank you.
today
Good night.
for some people.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, good night.